You're listening to AchtungMillwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
Summertime, dear listeners, and the living is easy for some of us, but not for our two guests, Harry Warren and Michael Avery, both of whom played in the inaugural Paul Jiggins Cup the other night. Welcome, chaps. Welcome to you both. As the legs, Harry. This is what I'm trying to drive at. 90 minutes pretty much on the Den pitch, mate. I take my hat off to you. That would have killed me, but may well physically have killed me. How are you?
Yeah, I think I got about 65 minutes, and it didn't hurt on the night. It fucking hurt yesterday, and it hurts today. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I'm not as fit as I thought I was.
I think that's probably true. Michael, you are a fitness machine, mate, so I'm not going to ask you about your fitness. Did you enjoy, you were reffing this great little event the other night. You were reffing. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, it was great fun. In all seriousness, but I messaged it to some of the players who took part and Phil Clark, who did superb organising the event. But it was just really good fun, really good laugh. And thank you as well to Millwall Football Club for letting us have the pitch and plan on it, because I know the pitch has got some criticism over the years, but it was like a snooker table. And for the first time this season, regardless of the levels I've reffed and been involved with and run the lines, 6 miles I ran in that right. 90-minute game. 6 miles. So yeah, my legs been a bit tired, but no, in all, any pain quickly goes when you remember the game. You know, I'm still buzzing about it now, and it was a couple of days ago. So it's all we've been talking about. Absolutely.
I mean, just to explain to listeners, this was a fans game organised by Phil Clark. So hats off to Phil for organising this. There was a game played between two sets of fans via the House of Fun website mostly. 90 minutes on the Den. I think for many, Harry, I mean, you posted afterwards, and I've been struck when years ago we organised the Lions Trust Cup 5-a-side thing, and Phil organising this now. For many, many people, this is a bit of a dream come true to actually play in a Millwall shirt, in your case, because I noticed both sides were kitted out in away kits. But to play in a Mill shirt on the pitch of the Den is quite something, mate. I mean, you seem quite proud and lifted by the event.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I hadn't played. For me, I hadn't played football in probably since I was about 16, 17. Before this season, so to obviously join the Saturday side, sort of do me badges this year. I sort of been on a bit of a football journey, playing wise again. Obviously, never going to do anything of note in any other form than amateur. So this will be the highest moment of me ever playing. Do you know what I mean? I'm never going to play on the surface like that again. Never going to have a dressing room like that again. So yeah, it was a dream come true. There's no other word. To wear the number 9 was nice. It just so happened that I picked it up out the bag. I definitely weren't looking for it. First time a number 9's been at left back, I tell you. But it was. I mean, everything about it, like the organisation from Phil and the other people. I mean, I know the club helped out with it as well. Phil's be the first person to say, but like just even like getting there, the way it was laid out, you got to go out on the pitch before the game, before you went and got changed, sort of thing, and have your photos, and you walk round, and you know it was our stadium because you feel like it's yours. We've all been there, we all know what it's like, and a bit of it stays with you even when you're not there, kind of thing. And you got to walk around it. I got to look up. There was a pigeon that flew to Birdshit Corner, Nick, and I thought, it is Birdshit Corner for a reason.
Yeah, I don't know why they like that corner. They do seem to. I mean, Michael, you're actually using the referee's dressing room, weren't you? I mean, it's. I was really struck looking at the pictures and the videos and the comments, but played under floodlights in the proper stadium and in full with kind of pretty much full facilities. I take my hat off to Millwall Football Club and Phil for organising this, because it's a lot of work that goes into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is as well, it was as silly as it sounds, and it was actually all done properly, so you had the two teams in their sort of changing rooms, and as the match official, we came out and we sort of knocked on the doors and checked the studs, all that kind of stuff you normally would expect from these high level games. Absolutely. Unfortunately, unfortunately, note to Millwall Football Club, your buzzer don't work when you're trying to get the players ready, the bell. So we had to do the old-fashioned knock on the doorway. But, we were lined up in the tunnel properly. Let them come playing as well. We had the minutes
I
of
saw
applause as
that.
well.
What a
Which
wonderful
was
touch.
fantastic.
What a wonderful touch. Yeah.
Really, really nice. But also as well, do you know what's really weird? He's like, look, I've been on the pitch a couple of times. Harry, you've been on the pitch a couple of times. Obviously not in football roles, but, no chance for that.
Fun there.
But some people have been on the pitch for the tours and that kind of thing. And when you're there, you look at it and you get, as you've said a few times before, Nick, on previous shows, you get the concept of it's quite steep. You don't realise how close those seats are.
Claustrophobic, I would say.
But I'll tell you, the one thing that got me, Harry, and I don't know about you. Now, it was brilliant, the people who came along and watched as well. It wasn't the sort of numbers you'd get for, like, obviously, league games or even like the Wonderwall Cup, which had good turnout. But the reserve games. But there was a great little attendance there and in the kitchen and lower. But I don't know about you, Harry, but every time that goal went in, how loud did it sound? Considering in the grand scheme of things, there wasn't the thousands upon thousands upon thousands. It sounded really loud and the atmosphere was amazing. And you think if that's just the noise levels you can generate from just a few, I don't know how many people was there. I was obviously too sort of involved in the game itself. But if that's the noise levels you're getting from quite a small number, that's why when people say when there's 20,000 here, it sounds like there's 70,000. But it was just a fantastic atmosphere, great day. And I'll tell you what, to take your hats off as well, being you have the best seat in the house when you're a referee because you're not obviously involved in the game, but you can watch everything that goes on. There's some lovely football played, really, really nice football played by some of the players out there. So it was good to be part of.
Fair play to both sides. I've got an image of Phil produced a team sheet again done in the kind of font and style of the match day program, which I think is just a really nice touch. There seem to be loads of nice touches, even down to having the kits, Harry. I mean, that was like a proper away kit that you were wearing there, and the other side had the red and white kind of husky mountain kind of image on the shirts.
Yeah.
Nice touches, nicely done in that way, I felt. And the team sheet, it just looks like a properly produced team sheet, I thought.
Yeah, that was. I think the kits were okayed by the MCT, weren't they, Michael? I
believe so. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, so I mean that's off to the Millwall Community Trust. I think Sean and Alex Russell sorted that out for us.
Yeah.
I mean Billy Taylor was there. There was a few people from the club there. And it showcased the best of our club. The much maligned, media grabbing headlines. There won't be a jot written about raising money for one of their colleagues, basically.
No, I mean the money was to the Jiggins family. I think they've got like a charitable appeal going on. Paul Jiggins, of course, listeners being the Sun journalist and Millwall fan, huge Millwall fan, who sadly passed away quite recently. He presented the Wall Talk podcast for anyone that wants to listen to some of the older editions. You'll hear him. Very knowledgeable, lovely bloke. I met him not so long ago when I did the podcast episode with the club. So this is a really nice appeal. Just going to read out, indulge me here, boys and listeners. I'm going to read out the names of the two squads involved. So these are all, largely speaking, I think, House of Fun users. Obviously, they've come together via Phil Clark. So we've got two teams organised, two squads, one known as Jiggo United, managed by Mickey Perkins. Mickey Two Horses, I know Mickey. The names on that side: Michael Bloomfield, Jack Callahan, Pete Chandler, Jack and Phil Clark, Les Davis, Harry Foster, Paul Glassborough, Simon Griffiths, Danny Kempster, Paul Kennedy, Neil Locke, Neil Richardson, I know as well, Omer from That Mill podcast, Omer Ronayne, Alex Russell, he's on the he's the ladies team, isn't he?
Assistant manager. Yeah.
Absolutely, Alex. Shout out to Mickey Simpson of the well done, Mickey, if you're listening, for putting yourself through that athletic test. I take my hat off to you, mate. Del Smith, Tony Thomas, TT, our very own Harry Warren, and Richard York, who I know well. Richard, big shout out to Richard. On the opposition, boys, we have London Wall, managed by Firewall. I've met Firewall. I know Firewall. Assistant manager Alex Grace. I think he's on the communications team, Alex, isn't he? And
he writes for the South London and Southwark News, that kind of.
there we are, Alex. Big shout out to Alex. Then we've got Jack and Nick Bone. I know Nick. I know both their dads, Don. Chris Chapman, Bob Colclough, Nick Desange. I'm going to give it the French spin. Apologies, Nick, if you pronounce it in an English style. But I'm going to give you a continental twist, mate. Desange. Harry Dolby, almost certainly a member of the Dolby family. Dean Greensmith, Peter Huckstep, George and Mark Livet. Our own Ryan Loftus, Caleb Morley, Pete Noden, Chris Purcell, Steve Redmond, Tom Rudland, Chicken George, there's a great name from the past, Chicken George, Steve Songhurst, David Turner, who I know, and Joe Sarafa, and match official, our very own Michael Avery. Michael, I mean, you ref the game. We were just talking off air, boys, weren't we, about the good spirit, generally good spirit play in which the game was played. I'm constantly amazed at the 1,000,001 decisions that go through your head as a referee, particularly in tight situations. I'll take my hat off to you, mate, because you're on the pitch for the full 90, aren't you? Whereas some of the players, I'm going to guess, were rolling in and out of game as it went along.
Yeah. And do you know what? It was one of those things that it did start off quite faster paced than I thought it would, in the nicest way, because I thought where it was like the charity game and not in a sense you don't take it seriously, but you've got the spirit of what the game is for. But there was some crunching tackles really early doors. Some like I said, some nice football played, and I was a bit like, do you know what? This is gonna be an entertaining hour and a half for me, to say the least. But do you know what? In the nicest way, as I said to someone in Harry's bar afterwards, part of being a referee, you need to have that little bit of mental where you've got to get used or accept that you're a little bit of the panto villain, in the sense that you'll make a decision that that's not popular. I had one on a game on Sunday, just gone in a league game, where I gave a penalty, and as I said to someone the other day when I was there, you had one team who was absolutely adamant it was a penalty, 100%. Guy's got to get sent off red card. But then the other team's like, no, he's run across me. It's a complete accident. You can't give a penalty. So it's like no matter what way you go, you are going to piss off 15 geezers from one team. There's nothing you can do about it. But there was a couple of decisions, but yeah, maybe I'll hold my hands up. I could have given one or two, but again, it was the charity game, so you don't want to be too much of a job's worth, if you will, and try and let the game flow as best you can. But also as well, there were times where I did sort of speak to the players as well, where I might have said to someone, got to be careful with that one, or like me and Harry said off there, we had a bit of a joke about it. Like Harry's arm went up, and sort of he gave someone a little bit of a cuddle, didn't you, Harry, when he was running away from you?
Did he?
You're not. Look, let's be honest. It was going to be. I've watched the one.
He absolutely ruined you anyway, Harry. So.
I've watched All or Nothing by Pep. I'm well aware of the tactical foul. Someone ran past me. It was going to create an overlap, and the arm come out, and Michael didn't fucking blow. He let him carry on and carried the advantage.
He read your mind.
I was going to say, because he left you about 10 yards behind, Harry. I didn't need to blow for the foul. But
you compared yourself with Robbie Ryan meeting up with Cristiano Ronaldo. That's not fair.
First half, I come on at left back. I don't play left back, and they had this kid, and he was absolute lightning. He was just absolutely. And Phil and Jack Clark were playing a centre back partnership, which must have been lovely for him, like father son to play centre back. Yeah. But Phil done it. Phil plays at quite a high vet standard that I've been reliably informed, and not by himself, so he might. So Phil done his hamstring. So we had we changed in the first 20 minutes. Jigo United, who I was playing for, we changed 2 out the back 4. We're still trying to get used to it. It's like everyone's trying to play our line. I'm like, I can't do this. This ain't gonna work.
But in all seriousness, going back to your point, Nick, you blow the whistle. There's some decisions where you do get people sort of question it, if you will, but there was nothing bad or anything. It was played in the right spirit of what the game was and what the occasion was. And when you play football, if it's friendly, even in training, you know, you're going to get decisions that you question or you don't agree with. But the good thing was like I said, it was an absolute joy to ref. Really was. They were all of them. Anyone who's listening now who's a part of it, they was absolutely top lads, every single one of them. And if there is going to be another one of these in the future, I do strongly recommend to anyone who's listening who weren't involved to maybe get involved and see if they can, because it was a great day, really, really good day. Well done, Phil, for organising. Well done, Millwall, Billy, Veronica, all those behind the scenes, Sean Daly. Excellent work, everyone, got to say.
I mean,
Second that, yeah.
The thing was as well, it wasn't boring. That's also something like I think what you said there with the charity game is like sometimes because there's nothing on it. Like it's a charity game, people sort of it is slower, but yeah, I mean it was a game of high drama at the Den. I mean it was literally as much it fitted Millwall Football Club really, didn't it? It was it literally couldn't have ended or couldn't have gone the way that it did. I mean it was unbelievable.
But even after the game as well, sorry, just before we close off on this, Nick. But even after the game as well, we all went back in Harry's bar and everyone's sort of having a drink together, having a chat together. They're two different sides, match officials, supporters, everyone's there, and it was nice for the fan base to come together because you know, like as I said, you've got people from House of Fun, you've got people from the Lionesses, you've got AchtungMillwall, that Millwall podcast, and you know, we've all come together for a common reason, and that's what it's all about.
That is Millwall. I mean, you've both summed it up very nicely. I take my hat off to everyone involved in it. So well done, Phil. Well done, Millwall. Well done, all the boys whose names I've just read out. I just wanted to make sure everyone got a mention out of what was a really nice event in memory of one of the great Mill fans of recent years, Paul Jiggins. So well done, everybody. I'm going to take a little short break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to dwell on some of the news such as there's been of the summertime. So we'll be right back.
You're listening to AchtungMillwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
Welcome back, dear listeners. So I thought boys, there's not been an awful lot of Millwall news. I mean, there's obviously the first thing to say is that we've had the retained list, which didn't really contain any great surprises, Harry, the retained list. The main news of which is the departure, which we knew about, of Alex Pearce and Conor Mahoney. I think we should all wish them well. I mean, Alex, I would imagine, is going to be at the end of his career, possibly coaching. He seems to have aspirations in that direction. And Mahoney, I think, will find a club. He's too good a player to let the career get away from him, Harry. Do you agree? Or I know he's not done it for us, but he will find work somewhere else, won't he?
Yeah, I think Alex Pearce might go and play somewhere else. I don't necessarily think he's ready to stop. And Conor Mahoney, as Aaron alluded to on a previous podcast, I think the free market is where the value is this season. Everyone will be in vogue of the Luton model, especially in the Championship, of sign the free agents and sort of a money ball type system. I agree. I can see Conor Mahoney maybe at a Portsmouth, someone like that, sort of a club that needs to get out of League One, sort of one of the bigger teams now. Sunderland ain't in League One. Portsmouth have got to eventually get out of that league. So I could see him maybe going down the road there, someone like that.
Would you say League One though? Would you say League One? I was thinking League One, but quality wise, would he not go somewhere like a Hull? Or he was a bottom half.
You mentioned Luton, Harry. I was going to say Luton. I mean, I would have thought he would fit in somewhere, you know.
Yeah, I think he would. But then I suppose from a club's point of view, you know, Millwall, not the most fashionable club in the world. Look at his appearances over his contract. He's probably got maybe 30 appearances over 3 years. Maybe been injured, not really done it. Scored 2 goals, both against Luton.
Very, very inconsistent. I mean, you got that. It's sad, but
there might be better value out there than a 30-game in 3-year winger that on his day can be unplayable, but his day is once a season, and it literally both times for us it was against Luton.
he might go to La Liga, because he scored against Real Sociedad, which, according to some people, is what he's going to be remembered for, that goal in the pre-season.
He'll be remembered for the goal against Luton.
Yeah.
Let's just read through the remaining first team players in contract. None of these will be surprises, listeners, but we've got Bartosz, Bielkowski, Jules Long, Danny Mack, Murray Wallace, player of the season, Sean Hutchinson, who I think I was reading is having a contract extension, if not already signed, certainly in negotiation. Jake Cooper, Scott Malone, Jules Saville, Ryan Leonard, Billy Mitch, George Evans, Tom Bradshaw, Mason Bennett, and Tyler Bury. So they are here. That's the core of our team next season. The loans that have expired, boys, I mean, we've mentioned these many, many times over the course of our shows, but so again, no surprises here. But going back to Arsenal is Dan Ballard. I think we're going to miss Dan Ballard, chaps.
Looks like he's on the move. Apparently, there's been 5 bids for him, according to press reports that I read this morning. Doesn't surprise me at all, Harry. Going back to Stoke is Benik Afobe. We'll see on that front what becomes of that. Oliver Burke, Shea Ojo, and Luke Freeman. All of those are open question. I suppose apart from Dan Ballard, who I think we won't see at all, we may see Benik Afobe if a deal can be done. We may see Oliver Burke, Harry, because he's a Gary Rowett kind of player, isn't he, Ollie Burke? And we may see him back again. I think he is. I think both of those two players that you just mentioned, the biggest stumbling block, as usual, will be wages.
Money,
yeah. I don't think it's necessarily transfers for the players. I think it will be wages. That's what I think. I also think that if they are going to come, they're going to come late, because I think Aaron is right. The way no one's really done any business. I know we've still got the Champions League and we've got the Europa Conference League tonight. But other than that, and the playoffs. But other than that, the season's done, and no one seems to have made, other than releasing their released and retained list. Then no one's done any business. So I think everyone's got the same idea of leave it late and see what best.
See what's around. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Michael, Shea Ojo, and Luke Freeman. We barely saw Luke Freeman, so it's easy to take the mickey in a wave with his 12 minutes, which I did see, listeners. I'm witness to the 12 minutes of Luke. Shea Ojo. I think
there's lads with more minutes on the Millwall pitch than Luke
played
Freeman.
The other
night. Has he ever played at home?
I don't know. I don't think Shea. Whether the question really is whether he's a Gary Rowett type of player, and I don't know that there's an answer to that question. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was a life-changing player for me, Michael. I mean, we will see. We have no insight into any of these players, do we?
No, I think with Shea Ojo, in the nicest way, it's like we've said a few times with him. He's always being loaned out from Liverpool, so to a degree, he's probably looking for a permanent deal somewhere. Hence all the constant loans. And I think with us, without trying to be disrespectful, he was very much a bit like a plaster over a leaking pipe. He was a bit of a short-term fix and could do a little bit of a job until we had a long-term goal of what we actually wanted to do with the position, formation and everything like that. He was very inconsistent, in my opinion. When he was good, he did actually look quite decent, but he didn't necessarily have that long of a run in the team. We say about Ollie Burke, and I know when he first signed, I think he got injured early as well, didn't he? And that became a little bit of a joke similar to the Freeman thing. But as soon as he was fit again, he was definitely back in contention, either starting or coming off the bench for Millwall. So if we can agree those wages, he's definitely one who I think that Rowett would keep. The one that does bother me slightly is the Afobe, because he's someone I would have, and I know a lot of the Millwall fans have said on his day that we'd have him, but from some of the articles you see, I know that there was one recently, I'm not going to name the publication, it was a little bit clickbait. You sort of clicked it and it was like, well, if Millwall put in a bid, I'll stay, but if they don't, I'll go. And that's not necessarily the sort of comment you want to hear from someone who you think would have their heart set on joining you. Nothing against Benik Afobe, because he put in a shift when he was here, but if he did want to stay, that article would have been a bit more, well, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this deal goes through, rather than I'll see if Millwall pay for me or not.
I mean, I think in a nutshell, it's that tension between us as fans wanting players to wear their heart on their sleeve and commit everything for Millwall Football Club, and love us if you want. Whereas for many players, most of these players, these are just jobs, and like you and I might say I can get better money working for, such and such a firm at somewhere else, you'll go there. But if this place wants to keep me on and that no other offers, I'll stay here. It sounds a little bit hard to hear in the football context, but it's the same working attitude that we all bring to the working week, isn't it? So we mustn't get too precious over this kind of stuff, I think.
No, I agree, but I also think that you've got to realise that football players have a short career. Benica Phobie is, what is he? He's definitely over 30 now.
He's toward the end of it, yeah.
Yeah. So is it worth Benica Phobie moving his? I don't know where his family's based. Moving his family from Stoke, presumably, or he signed there on a long-term deal or a longish deal for a football player. Uprooting his family, moving his family to London to go on to less money where things cost more. It's not really a great financial end of your career decision. That would be my one caveat of that. And at the end of the day, that's the same for most players, which is why people like Aaron, people like me, people like Ryan have said that our model's wrong and we should be looking at young players that want to use this as a stepping stone. And people don't like that because they think that means that they're disrespecting the club. No, because when you get young players in, the idea is they think, as long as their attitude is I'm using Millwall to better myself and better my career prospects, and they're mutually beneficial outcomes, i.e. Millwall get the best out of them, they get the best out of Millwall sell them for a price, we invest again, a Brentford model.
Brentford, I was just going to say that club, yeah.
That's what you have to do when you're a smaller club, especially in London. And we seemingly with if we went to sign a Phobie and if we went to, with Ojo, I compare Ojo and what I'd assume Ojo's wages would be to another inconsistent wide man, but one who is ours and has been watched by Premier League clubs this season, as we are led to believe, would be Tyler Bury. And I'd much rather Tyler Bury have a 3 or 4 grand wage increase and maybe have some kind of long-term stability with an option in his contract of a minimum release fee or something like that, where we know that we've got him for at least this amount of money, would be what I'd do with the money that you possibly spend on Ojo. But again, I'm not in charge of that, and I've not got any insight, obviously, listeners. But it's just about Millwall have to make their money work harder than others people's because you have less. We've all got to save money at the moment, cost of living crisis and all that. And
absolutely.
I think Millwall have got to live in a constant cost of living prices, which is the championship.
Since 1885, mate, we've been in that.
The only good thing is that we know one club that's come down are in absolute financial
free fall.
Yeah. I mean, Burnley Football Club.
Burnley,
Are Derby County Mark II.
They look like next season's basket case, don't they? Already from the stories, we'll see how they perform in the Championship next season, along with Norwich and Watford from the Premier
Who are Sky Sports going to wank over next season? There might not be any Forest. There's going to be no Leeds. There's no Everton. Who are going to be
Sunderland? They're going to get up on Sunderland.
Yep.
Strange story. Well, strange, wrong choice of word, listeners. But just going through the list of the retained list, and there's an article on London News Online. Millwall confirmed that we've offered a contract to Jed. I don't know if I want to pin my hopes on him signing that. We live in hope, but we must be realists, listeners. And a strange one as well, boys. Michael Kieftenbelt, who we've offered a contract to. I mean, Kieftenbelt, I mean, I don't mind him, Michael, but he's not. He's Mr. Reliability in one sense. I suppose that's the hook, isn't it? That's it's a unique selling point, but that's his selling point. The fact that he's a kind of a reliable midfielder. Would you be offering him a contract?
Interestingly, and without trying to make Harry go all red and smoke go out of his ears, I would if we played a different style of midfield. Kieftenbeld's very much that type of player who's like an anchor and would just give balls to the more flair players to do things with.
Yeah.
So if you was to change your style a bit slightly, where you actually introduced a bit more wide play and a bit more attacking midfielders rather than just having sort of free sit on the box with edge of the box with wing backs, then yeah, absolutely I would. But But while you've got a Billy Mitchell there who does a similar job and is younger, and Leonard who does a similar job when he's fit, and Saville who you had signed as an attacking midfielder and you're asking him to sit deep as well. I don't mind Clifton Beld. I know there's some people who don't like him or would see him.
I don't mind him. I don't mind him.
But yeah, I'm like that. He's a little bit like tepid tea, isn't he? Like you'll drink it if it's there, but you could quite easily make another one. You know, it's probably the best analogy I can have for him because he doesn't pull up any trees, but he's not going to let you down.
Tepid tea for you, H.
It's not actually a knock at Clifton Bell. He's not the one that I'd get rid of, but he's the first one who's out of contract, so therefore, I'd let him go. I mean, just going back, this is a Millwall midfield that had 8 centre midfielders that is now down to 5. If he stays, it will still be at 5. When I look across, then we possibly might only have one fit right back again because I can't see Marlon Romeo staying.
No, returning from loan, listeners, Marlon Romeo.
I can't see that happening.
Panto Villain, number 1 out there.
Yeah, so I can't see that happening for obvious reasons. So Ryan Leonard is now maybe Gary Rowett's second choice right back, which is strange. So we need to sign one of them. So you're wasting the money that you could spend on wages signing another midfielder. Just makes the George Evans transfer all those months ago seem even more fucking batshit crazy than what it did at the time.
Yeah.
It's just like Clifton Bell. Clifton Bell is a better version of Evans. Evans isn't a good enough centre back to play centre back for us, so therefore, you know, one of them's got to go. The first one who's out of contract, and we're going to give them another contract. No one's going to spend money to buy these players. The only way to get rid of them is when their contracts go.
Do you know at this moment in time, I wouldn't worry about Clifton Beld. I'd worry about either getting Jed or getting someone in who could replace Jed. That'd be my absolute focus at the moment.
Well, we're hoping they're working on that. I mean, just to complete the retained list, boys, we've mentioned Marlon already. I can't believe he will stay, which is a shame, in my opinion, but I don't think popular opinion matches my opinion.
Who wants to be popular, Nick?
Well, do you know what? I'll say this we're on a midsummer time. I've never done this show to be popular. You know, people can not listen to it. They don't want to listen to it. I don't mean that arrogantly. It's just you've got to say what you think. And, you know, if some people don't agree with that, well, they can do their own, put their own opinions out, can't they? That's free speech. But Marlon was a decent player, but, you know, okay, he's not a perfect player, but who he is. But he was he fell foul of the taking of the knee controversy, and that was, you know, the rest of it is history. So I can't see him staying. Let's put it that way. The other 2 coming back from loan, Isaac Alofe, who remains this enigmatic figure that did very well with Sutton in their non-league and to some level, I think, in their League 2 seasons. I think he was injured for a chunk of last term, so I've not really heard much about him since, but he's back with us now from Sutton. And then also from Brisbane Road from Orient, Alex Mitchell has come back, who again gets, for those that have seen him, gets good reviews in League 2. But I haven't seen him. I don't know if any of you boys have seen him, so I don't know how good a player he is, whether he's going to compete with Jake and Hutchinson and Murray Wallace and the others. So we'll see.
See, I look at that, and then I look at the fact that Alfie Mawson has just been released. A man that went for I can't remember, it was like 8. It was either 8 or more £1 million. I know it was definitely a large amount of money. A ball playing centre back with, you know, who's been promoted to the Premier League, and I look at him and I think, well, that's the kind of player we should be going to replace Ballard with. That's the ball playing centre back. And every other Championship team that want a ball-playing centre-back will be thinking the same. The problem is again, you've got to cut your cloth accordingly. And Gary Rowett seems quite sentimental about, you know, letting people go that he's worked with before. I think he's quite happy to let Millwall people go. I don't think he's very happy to let...
Well, I think that's driving the Clifton Bell decision, Harry, isn't it? Because he's worked with Clifton Bell at Birmingham, and he seems to like him, and that's...
Well, there's that link to the Derby County boy. I can't remember his name. It's on my Twitter, but I can't remember. We're linked to someone from this Peter O'Rourke or whatever, saying we're linked to a Derby County Derby County defender, and I just answered flippantly, of course we are, because that's where we go and sign players in some kind of Championship Manager feeder club type deal.
Just touching Isaac for a moment, H. I mean, it's now or never for Isaac. I think if he's not going to come back and be a contender to start at Millwall now, we may as well let him go, because I don't think he will ever be. He's young, but he's not ultra young. He's at that crossroads point where I think next season it will either happen for him, or maybe not. I think he's at crossroads.
I think they're all this batch of youngsters, or the last sort of batch of youngsters, were all sort of brought through under Neil Harris when he was the under-21 manager, and then subsequently the Millwall manager in League One. So you look at Fred, Sid Nelson, Aidan O'Brien, players like that. All of them have come through, either made it or not. I mean, some people could turn around and say that, most of them were good. A lot of them have ended up being League One players, which is the level that we started at. Some lower, some are not there. But the next set of Millwall youngsters, the only ones that we've seen that seemingly have a bit about them is Tyler Bury, that wasn't a Millwall youngster. We signed you off AFC Wimbledon for a bag of tracksuits, basically in modern money sense. And I just think we're the next set of youngsters. I mean, I saw there's a young boy who we've just signed on a professional deal who scored goals for fun. I can't remember. Is it Tom Lee? Is it his name? I might have got his name wrong.
Don't know.
Anyway, there was a couple of youngsters that Millwall have decided to take on professionally from this year's bunch of under-18s. Lovelace, obviously, hasn't decided.
Lovelace was another name I was going to mention. Yeah,
he hasn't decided what he's doing. The pathway needs to be there for these players. I think that's an important thing to remember. And from what we've seen under Gary Rowett, he does tend to prefer older heads, more experienced heads. And the problem is with that is to buy experience costs money, because you can't get it organically. You have to promote within at Millwall a little bit, and there's a balance in that to be found.
You say that though, Harry, about the pathway. It is. I think there's. I know this Rowett likes those type of players and all that, but I think that the pathway, especially at Championship level, is probably more here than it was under Neil Harris, in the sense that when we went up to the Championship, Neil Harris said, didn't he, from the off, it's very difficult once you're at this level to blood through your youngsters. When you was in League One and you was giving these young players a try, even when you was getting the likes of Jed Wallace and George Saville on loan, not massively well-known, heard-of players, but he was blooding them in. But Mitchell's flourished this season. Arguably, could have been in contention for, sort of young player of the year, which McNamara won. McNamara comes second in the player of the year overall. You just touched on Tyler Bury. Yes, he may not be one of our youth players, but he's someone who we got and he's young and he's being given a crack of the whip. So, yeah, the pathway may not be as wide and vast as we would like, where we're getting all these players in, but it's certainly, I'd say it's certainly more visual than it was under Jackett and to a degree Harris in the Championship.
Definitely Jackett. I think Jackett was pretty much of the opinion that he could close down the youth system. Pretty much. I mean, Connor Wilkinson, I know obviously that's just the famous sort of, I'm going on to bigger and better things, and ends up at League Two Bolton at the time or whatever. But I get your point with Billy Mitch, and I get your point with Danny Mack. I think Danny Mack was more out of necessity, because I don't think I'll be honest, I don't think he would have given him a game if we hadn't. Well,
that was the loss of Marlon, Harry, wasn't it?
That's my opinion. I mean, I can't prove that or disprove that. It was what it was. The Bury thing, when I say about Bury, is that that you've got to be careful when you bring in. All right, Oliver Burke, scored a couple of goals and whatever. But Ojo, I think fucking Bury's as good as Ojo, because Ojo, they're both as inconsistent as each other. I mean, the QPR game, Bury was unbelievable. You'd have said he played 100 games in a champ. All right, he's had other games where he's not looked at it, but that is what a young player is. Now, I know which one's going to cost less money. I know which one I want. So, there's those kind of decisions to be made, and I do think that affects not just the first team. I think that affects the teams underneath, the under-23s, the under-21s, the 18s, whatever. I think you can't underestimate seeing players that you may have played with at younger age groups or whatever that come through and do it. So yeah, I take the point. I think we've got to be realistic and think that, you know, we've got to be so good to make what we've got work. You're going to lose Jed Wallace, as you said, Mike, and to replace Jed Wallace, you probably need 2, if not 3 players, and none of them are going to be Jed's quality, because the ones that are Jed's quality are going to cost money that we ain't necessarily got, and you know, you're going to have to take, even if you bought 3 players, I think they say 25% of transfers work. So we'd have to buy, 4 players to hopefully get one that might be good as Jed. So
they're just going back to the article and just reading a list of, I think these are all under 23s, and I don't know any of these names apart from one vaguely, listeners. These all have contract options triggered, so it's just interesting that these are seen as being retainable, shall we say. Jordan Gilmore, don't know him. Ryan Sandford is a goalkeeper, I believe, and I don't know if he's played for the first team. He's certainly been on the bench, I believe.
Definitely bench, yeah.
Joe Wright, Arthur Penny, Nana Boateng. I think, didn't he? Nana, was he not on the bench during the injury period that we had? Yeah. Tyrese Briscoe, the same. Alfie Allen, Abdul Malik, who I think was the boy that was highly rated, coming from the youth ranks. Bessart Topolaj, I think, was on the bench at one point. Isaac Alofe, we've mentioned, and has had this contract option trigger this season. And finally, Sebastian Drozd. I mean, most of those don't know the names. I'm not going to presume to comment on them, chaps, but it's interesting that these young players are seen as part of the scene for next season, at least. So perhaps there's a chance for some continuation of the pathway. Let's leave it that way.
The thing with it is that Millwall can choose to do this reset one or 2 ways. They can either choose to accept that we've lost Jed, possibly, but I think definitely. So we've lost Jed, and say we don't get a Phobie either, and we've lost Ballard. Now, we're not going to, you know, with losing those 3 players, let's be realistic. It's immensely difficult for us to get to the playoffs anyway with those 3 players, let alone without them. It is nigh on impossible. I don't think the league's particularly good in terms of the teams that have come down. There's probably one more spot available in that top 6 than I thought there would be, with Burnley's financial problems on Leeds or Everton not coming down. But we have been significantly weakened by losing our best player. So for me, you either double down and you go and spend, and you have to spend well, or you promote within and you see where it takes you, and you have a season of patience from the fans to understand what they're trying to do. The key word there is patience, and Millwall fans tend to suffer with that bit a little bit.
Also, that's a big old drop in it from Championship to League One if it don't go right.
I think we're more patient than we're given credit for, Harry. If we can see a commitment to a plan of action, you know, no patience is infinite. But I think if fans can see a commitment to young players, I think the problem that we'll have is where young players make errors and mistakes, which is part of the package when you put youngsters into championship situations. I think people will, and in fairness to Millwall fans in the past, we've shown that we will back youngsters if we see it. I think it's going to be interesting, because I mean, there's another article here. I was just going to mention it before we close out the attack. I mean, state the bleeding obvious. Whoever wrote this is Richard Corley. Richard Corley, state the obvious, Richard. I'm going to state it with you, that the attacking department is the key area for Millwall's transfer focus this summer. And so it will be. I mean, I looked in the league table, 53 goals we scored this season. Only West Bromwich Albion in the top 10, which is where we aspire to be, have scored less than us. Each of the playoff contenders, boys, scored 60 plus goals. Forest scored 20 more than we did, 73 goals. There's the measure of the task. And as you said, Harry, we're losing our marquee player. in Jed Wallace. It's we're going to need to see some movement, some action, because that's not going to get any better, and potentially it could get worse. So we don't want that. It's going to be an interesting summertime ahead for us, I think.
Could do with a couple of teams getting point deductions for your heart rate, Nick.
Moving swiftly along, I just love I got this image of Millwall got a training camp lined up, Michael, in a place called Fota Island in Ireland. It sounds like a secure location, kind of like Alcatraz Island or something, where fans cannot get to it other than by crossing the water. I don't know. I think it's off of Cork Harbour, so it's actually in the harbour of Cork City.
Millwall fans coming via like rowing boat.
It sounds really nice, and I don't know it. I've never been, so I don't know. But I just had this picture of Alcatraz Island where you kind of die trying to get there. Shark infested waters, trying to get to the Mill pre-season.
There'll be all boats with machine guns around. Around the island, yeah.
I just pictured David Ford standing on the door.
That's right. No one crosses this water.
Floating in the Irish Sea, making sure boats don't come over.
Yeah.
Some of those Ukrainian missiles shooting your boats as you're trying to get to Fota Island from the Cork Harbour. We'll see. Just one last thing to close us, boys. I mean, obviously we're in the playoff zone now. The new season will start on the weekend of July the 30th. It's going to be a strange season next year, but before we complete the playoff zones, one thing that's really stuck out, much to the media's annoyance, has been the pitch invasion. I mean, obviously, it's a fascinating thing, a pitch invasion, because much seems to have historically depended who did it. I mean, any Millwall pitch invasion is inherently a hostile act akin to Vladimir Putin sending his troops into action. But when other clubs do it, Harry, it's joy-filled and wonderful to see. Usually plucky non-league clubs or possibly joy-filled Manchester City fans, until it all goes wrong and players are being assaulted. We've seen a number of really severe incidents. Was it Billy Sharp got head-butted? And now the fan concern is doing some jail time. There's an incident with a player, Patrick Vieira. I'm not going to call it assault.
The Everton fan, wasn't it?
I won't call it assault because he's kicked the boy up the Harris when he's in his face with a phone. So I can get that's provocation. And there was another one, wasn't there, where a player there's now been
McBurney, allegedly.
And then obviously the Villa keeper apparently got
assaulted, So whatever, I haven't really followed that one, but the Gerrard spoke at the press conference about the keeper being assaulted. I mean, this is players being assaulted. I'm not going to get on my moral high horse here, listeners, because at Millwall we are very familiar with pitch invasion. There's a humorous factor to it, of course, but not when it turns into full-scale assault. I mean, I can't imagine the national opprobrium that will come our way if an opposition player was headbutted at Millwall. Harry, can you picture the scene? I
can picture it. I can picture the Red Tops front pages. I think they'd
close this club.
They'd do a lot of business that day. The day after, they'd rub their hands together. They'd think it was back to sort of the 90s. But I generally think that this is that society, because I'll use Reg Burr's quote, football's a convenient peg for society to hang its social wheels on. I think you've locked people up for 2 years. You've forced them, well, not forced, but you can view it as forced.
Legally denied them the rights of association.
Forced them to have a vaccine, or for a long period looked like that was going to be a standard fare. You've had politicians from both political parties, regardless of your allegiances,
your stripe,
pictured in compromising legal positions. Let me put it that way. And
are we talking about the Green Party here, Harry?
I think it goes in many directions, but you're right, Harry.
Yeah, there we go. And people mental health, and I do generally believe this, the mental health crisis that stiff upper lip and all that has been kept for a long time, managed to get people through those 2 years. This is like sort of the intervening war years, in the fact that everyone sort of just went out and went on the piss. And that's pretty much how I see that. There are overspills of pent-up emotion. There are overspills of something that is remarkably deeper in the psyche of society at the moment, of fuck it, I'll do what I want. I could be dead tomorrow, or they might take my freedom away, or whatever. And these are all interesting mental dilemmas for more interesting and more intelligent people than myself to discuss. But I do believe that there is a massive overhang from not going to football, not getting pent-up aggression out, not being able to exercise, and an unhealthy sort of crisis of mental health in this country precipitates itself in a mob mentality when they are released in what should be a joyous celebration. See, I will say in this that if no one hits anyone, there is no problem with pitch invasions. Suck it up. People want to celebrate. That's it, right? Life's too short. But when people are getting hit and assaulted during the pitch invasions, that's when they can't happen anymore, because
that's the thing with Billy Sharp. Yeah, didn't you? Apparently, he had to have stitches in his face.
Yeah, he took it smack on the on the
It was almost like a running butt. It was like it was like a Tim Cale glancing header to Billy Sharp's face. Not to make light of it.
The other thing that struck me is this TikTok-driven world, mad world. And I'm interested in what you're saying there, Harry. But I do think that social media reflects a certain nervous breakdown of society, and that your celebration's got to be the maddest, biggest, with the most flares, and all captured on your iPhone for posting on social media. And I don't think that helps. I blame social media. Who are you going to blame, Michael? Who are you blame? I'm blaming social media. Harry's blaming Crystal Palace and
that TIFO kind of driven nonsense.
Yeah. I'm a referee. I have to be impartial.
Impartiality.
Yeah.
Personified, mate.
No. Do you know what? You say that. I do think there is a degree with the social media side of it, because people are doing it because they want to sort of get the most buzz. And like you just said it there with the flares, Nick. I mean, yes, I know we jest about Palace having flares, but they were one of the only teams.
We had one last game of the season, didn't we?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're seeing them everywhere now, aren't you? You know, and it weren't so long ago that flares weren't seen in the sort of English game. It was very much abroad, and in Germany's and Turkey's and these other countries where it was a little bit more of how their fans are, rightly or wrongly. Every different fan base has their different cultures. It could be the European culture that there's all these young. It could be us just being old gits, where these young supporters are now being influenced by the more international foreign game and want to bring some of it over here.
The media, as in much of life, listeners, in my opinion, the media have much blame to shoulder in many areas of life, but particularly on this, because some might argue a small thing. But I was looking at a German game, Harry, the other day, and I can't remember if it was one that might have been Leipzig. They'd won I think it might have been the German Cup.
Yeah, it was
and
Leipzig,
there was this like huge flare display at one end. Everyone's got like an orange glowing flare thing going off. And there was this kind of almost admiration. Look at the fan culture at Leipzig. Look at this. And I mean, quite dangerous, really, because they're all holding smouldering things that I don't know what temperature these things burn at, but they're very, very high temperatures. And you can say nanny state, you shouldn't ban people from doing what they want to do. But equally, if you're going to show that as a point of admiration, you can't. They do then condemn people. When people they've one been admired, somebody else runs on a pitch with it and they're going, oh my gosh, look at this,
I mean, I think I was going to make that point about the Palace thing. Is every time Palace are on Sky, and it is every time. Look at these magnificent Homesdale fanatic fucking, the
flag
end
waving
up there, flag waving. Look at that, creating what an atmosphere. And if you're an impressionable teenager, 14, 15, 16, and you've watched football for 2 years, you're not a 14, 15, 16-year-old anymore. You're 16 or you're 18. And you go back out into the world after COVID, and you've watched football behind closed doors, and they've talked about how great it would be to have the fans back, and then they're all fucking messaging each other all the time, fucking TikTok, Twitter, everything, and they go, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if we, all of us stormed? It's not like old school where you'd. Maybe this is the naivety of the modern generation. It's that it's not enough to do it. You've got to fucking film it and post it. You can't say you've got to prove that you've done something.
Yeah,
it don't exist unless on your WhatsApp group.
I have to say, dear listener, this actually just shows as well. Harry's now in the 30+ category. I'm well in the 30s, and Nick, I won't say your age to be polite, but
you be gentle.
We're moaning about all these flares and all that malarkey. The first couple of hours this morning, we were talking about how quick the Elizabeth line was. So it just goes to show, really, doesn't it?
Charlton Athletic part of the podcast is
That's a good point to leave it. Flares belong in the 1970s, dear listeners. Well, I used to wear a pair, so there we are. Big thank you for taking time out of your daytime, Harry and Michael. Appreciate your time, chaps. You both probably got things to do. Thank you to you, dear listener, for listening into the show. We'll be back later on in the summertime with another whimsy style show like this. Until then, it's Arrivederci Millwall, and bye for now.
You have been listening to Achtung Millwall. Please do leave us a review at Apple Podcasts. Danke schon. Up the Lions.